What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Sunday, May 8th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 7-game slate today, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. Okay, so at first glance, the stud on the slate looks like he's in a decent spot here. Take a look at Alec Manoa. He's pitching against the Cleveland Guardians. So Alec Manoa, he's got a weak pitch here versus lefty batters. He's giving up a .799 OPS versus lefties, but he pitches really well versus righties and switch hitters. He's facing 4 lefties, 4 righties, and 1 switch hitter. Now, I do like Alec Manoa here tonight, but I am concerned about those 4 lefties. The 4 lefties that he's going to be facing all have well over 300 batting average. So it could be a tough day for Alec Manoa, and he is the most expensive pitcher on the slate, but he is averaging 44 fantasy points per game on the season, which is well above the other pitchers on the slate. He's got an ERA of only 1.45, record of 4-0, pitching an average of 90 pitches per game. So, I can see why he's the most expensive pitcher on the slate. He certainly deserves to be. I'm just concerned about those 4 lefties that he's got to face here tonight. But I do like Alec Manoa here versus the Cleveland Guardians. Okay, so if I were to come off of Alec Manoa and save some salary at the pitcher position on this slate, I think an interesting pick would be Jake Odorizzi. He is pitching against the Detroit Tigers, and Jake Odorizzi, he is only giving up a .463 OPS versus switch hitters. So he pitches his best ball versus switch hitters, and he's facing 3 switch hitters here today. So I think that bodes well for Jake. Now, the other thing that I like about this pick is the Tigers have only hit 25 of his last 107 pitches. That's a .234 batting average with a huge sample size. And Jake Odorizzi is only $7,000 FanDuel salary, $600 more on DraftKings. Now, he's only averaging 18 fantasy points per game on the season, but that's because he had some really awful games. In his last 2 games, he scored 39 and 37 fantasy points. He has an ERA of 4.15, record is 2-2 on the season, pitching an average of 72 pitches per game. So if I were to save some salary at the pitcher position, I like Jake Odorizzi here versus the Detroit Tigers. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like Gary Sanchez with a 52% batting advantage over Dalton Jeffries. Gary Sanchez is batting 17% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .733 OPS versus righties. Dalton Jeffries pitches 35% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .775 OPS versus righties. Now, there's no at-bats versus Jeffries yet, but Gary Sanchez is only $2,600 FanDuel salary. He's $1,700 more on DraftKings, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .209, but I think his FanDuel price is cheap enough here, and he's got some pretty good splits. So I like Gary Sanchez, especially on FanDuel here versus Dalton Jeffries. Now, I also like Omar Narvaez with a 44% batting advantage over Charlie Morton. Omar Narvaez is batting 9% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .722 OPS versus righties. Charlie Morton pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters, 35% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .923 OPS versus lefties. So Omar Narvaez is 5 for 15, batting a .333 batting average and a .933 OPS versus Morton. He's only $2,300 FanDuel salary, $1,500 more on DraftKings, averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .232, so I like Omar Narvaez here versus Charlie Morton.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Jorge Polanco with a 41% batting advantage over Dalton Jeffries. Jorge Polanco batting 18% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .832 OPS versus righties. And Dalton Jeffries pitches his worst ball versus switch hitters, 23% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .823 OPS versus switch hitters. Jorge Polanco is $3,100 FanDuel salary, $1,600 more on DraftKings, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season, and he has a batting average of .232. So I like Jorge Polanco here versus Dalton Jeffries. Okay, here's another value play, and I think he's a good value play on both sites. Take a look at Mike Moustakas. He's got a 41% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Zach Thomas. Mike Moustakas batting 43% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .710 OPS versus righties. Zach Thompson giving up a .849 OPS versus lefties. Mike Moustakas is 1 for 3 with a 1 OPS versus Thomas. Only $2,500 FanDuel salary, and only $500 more on DraftKings. He's averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season, and he's been on a little streak here, scoring 9, 9, and 10 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He has a batting average of .246, so I like Mike Moustakas here versus Zach Thomas. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. Despite the poor splits here, at least versus the pitcher, I like Ke'Bryan Hayes. He is batting against Tyler Mahle, and Ke'Bryan Hayes, he doesn't bat as well versus righty pitchers, but he's still batting a .696 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Mahle does pitch his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .798 OPS versus righties. But what I like about this pick is Ke'Bryan Hayes is 6 for 9, batting a .667 batting average and a 1.667 OPS versus Mahle. He's only $2,700 FanDuel salary. He's $1,700 more on DraftKings, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season, and he has a batting average of .318. So I like Ke'Bryan Hayes here versus Tyler Mahle. Now I also like Sheldon Neuse with a 52% batting advantage over Chris Paddack. Sheldon Neuse is batting 58% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .918 OPS versus righties. Chris Paddack giving up a .724 OPS versus righties. No at-bats versus Paddack yet. Sheldon Neuse is $3,000 FanDuel salary, $700 more on DraftKings, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season, and he has a batting average of .307. So I like Sheldon Neuse here versus Chris Paddock.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. Here's a value play. I like Andrés Giménez with a 71% batting advantage over Alec Manoa. Andrés Giménez is batting 22% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .754 OPS versus righties. Alec Manoa pitching his worst ball versus lefty batters. So if you are going to play any batters here versus Alec Manoa, make sure they're lefty batters, giving up a .799 OPS versus lefties. That's 49% worse than his other pitches. So there's no at-bats versus Manoa yet. But Andrés Giménez is only $2,400 FanDuel salary. He's $1,200 more on DraftKings, and he's averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season, and he has a batting average of .348. So I like Andrés Giménez here versus Alec Manoa. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. Here's one of my home run hitter calls for today. The dong of the day is Christian Yelich with a 51% batting advantage over Charlie Morton. Christian Yelich is batting a .789 OPS versus righties. That's 17% better versus righty pitchers. And Charlie Morton pitching his worst ball versus lefty batters, 35% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .923 OPS versus lefties. And I like this pick because Christian Yelich is 8 for 23, batting a .348 batting average and a .826 OPS versus Morton. He's $3,700 FanDuel salary, $1,100 more on DraftKings, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .255. So I like Christian Yelich here versus Charlie Morton. Now I also like Cedric Mullins with a 30% batting advantage over Daniel Lynch. Cedric Mullins batting a .744 OPS versus lefties, and Daniel Lynch pitching his worst ball versus switch hitters, 47% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.079 OPS versus switch hitters. Cedric Mullins is $3,400 FanDuel salary, same price on DraftKings, so I love that DraftKings price. He's averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .243, so I like Cedric Mullins here versus Daniel Lynch. I also like Austin Hayes with a 35% batting advantage over that same pitcher, Daniel Lynch. Austin Hayes is batting a .717 OPS versus lefties. Daniel Lynch giving up a .742 OPS versus righties. No at-bats versus Lynch yet. Austin Hayes is $2,900 FanDuel salary, same price on DraftKings, so again, I love that DraftKings price, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season, and Austin Hayes has a batting average of .287. And both Austin Hayes and Cedric Mullins are on fire. They've both hit the ball very well the last 3 games, so I like Austin Hayes here versus Daniel Lynch. Another value play on the slate is Edwards Olivares with a 16% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Bruce Zimmerman. Edward Olivares is batting a .797 OPS versus lefties, Bruce Zimmerman pitching his worst ball versus righties, 16% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .760 OPS versus righties. He's only $2,600 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings, so I love that DraftKings price. Lots of value here on DraftKings at the outfield position. Now, Edward Olivares has averaged 7 fantasy points per game on the season, and he has a batting average of .364. So I like Edward Olivares here versus Bruce Zimmerman.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this MLB slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.